Welcome back. News of the day as we get ready for Monday, and it feels like we're going to get announcements this week, right? And yet, it's felt like we should be getting announcements for the last couple of weeks. So, fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. Now, I'm wearing Ottawa because Eugene Melnyk starts off the news today. I'm going to say straight out, the headline that I was reading was that Melnyk believes the Sens are ready to win a cup, ready to contend for a cup, no additions needed. The article from the Ottawa Sun does kind of allude to that, but I will say this, and there's a reason that I get it's on the board, because I do. Eugene Melnyk right now has a team where they've got rid of almost every veteran that was a part of the 2017 run, right, where they got close to a Stanley Cup final, didn't quite get there. And so, as the owner and as like the head cheerleader for the Sens, which is what he's kind of tried to be throughout, he has to say, I think we're good. Now, most, including myself, see if there's a Canadian division, Ottawa probably finishing at the bottom of the Canadian division. But they should be in better shape this year than they were last year. And so I get it. I understand why the owner would say we see ourselves as cup contenders. And again, what else is he going to say? Well, no, we're going to be garbage again this year and probably try to get another top draft pick. No, you've got Stützle coming in. Sanderson clearly looks pretty darn good. He's not playing now, of course, but you've got all these other guys coming in from the minors that you've invested a lot in terms of players you've picked up and some contracts signed. And so now you start to look forward to things getting better. And this is where, for Pierre Dorion, it kind of has to go through. It kind of has to be a situation where the team has to now get better, because if it doesn't, it starts to come back on Dorion just a little bit. So the pressure's on in Ottawa on some level. Expect them to be more competitive than last year, and especially the year before that. I don't see them as a playoff team, but as a guy who's cheered for Ottawa in the past, it would be nice to see Ottawa relevant and upsetting some teams and maybe being in the hunt again. That would be nice to see. They've never been in my top three. There's, of course, Vancouver, Boston, Dallas. That's the hierarchy. But Ottawa were usually number 4. They were usually the team that I had no problem with adopting if I needed to. Especially against Montreal. Was very often I really enjoyed seeing them against Montreal. Not so much against Toronto. Toronto, they definitely have problems with traditionally in the playoffs. But maybe we're getting back to that. Maybe the Battle of Ontario can happen again soon, and we can have a lot of fun watching Ottawa and Toronto go at it. That's always a fun series, no matter who wins. It's Toronto, but act surprised. ECHL assignments have started. So for people who follow transactions in the NHL, NHL teams have started sending players to the East Coast League. And of course, you may see some guys get sent to the East Coast League so they get to play who normally would be getting sent to the American Hockey League. So there's going to be some guys getting sent down while the ECHL works on getting things started. I'm looking forward to reporting on the ECHL once it gets started. Fingers crossed that everything goes well for that league and that they're able to get games done, and we see how things go for them. But all the best to players that are able to play in the ECHL and in getting that league up and running. And again, we'll see how that goes. I only wish them the best. And yes, as I said at the start of this, it feels like the movement has to happen this week. And one thing I want to get into is deferral versus escrow. We did a Zoom call today with our patrons, and it was a question that came up, so I thought, well, I might as well mention it in video as well, a news video. Escrow is money that the players put their money into. It's a fund, and they may get it back a couple years later. They may not get it back at all. The NHL looks at the bottom line and goes, this escrow money doesn't go back to you guys because we didn't make as much money as we thought we would. And the escrow has been, let's just say, a bone of contention between players and owners since it came into existence. It's something that players hate. Owners say that it's necessary to make sure that a 50-50 split works. In that the 50-50 split on a season's revenue is what you think you're going to make, what you made the year before, but it may not end up being accurate. So we get into all the weeds on this. Now, the deferral just means we take money out of your salary, we put it into a fund, and you get it back in a couple of years when we're making X amount of dollars. So the biggest difference, and the reason why NHL players would say we're not putting more money into escrow, but we're willing to listen on deferrals, is because you do get the deferral money back later. And if you retire before you get that deferral money back. You'll still get it. It's just a matter of when. One bone of contention apparently was and could still be that the players would like to see that money gain interest, and the owners were saying, well, no, we don't want interest on that. They're going to get interest on it. And I think there's going to be movement, and I would think it happens this week. There are players right now entering this country, entering Canada, who are going into a 14-day quarantine. If you ask them, they'll tell you, I'm not coming back to Canada and quarantining so I don't get to play hockey. That's not a thing. We're going to get this to work. When we start hearing about players just staying home and not bothering with the quarantine, when we start hearing about players in Europe saying, forget it, I'm going to stay with this team over here in the Swedish league because the NHL's not starting up anyways, that's when I think there's reason for panic. There isn't that reason for panic at this stage, as most players are coming back over to play who should be with their parent club to start the season. Players who are going to play the whole season in Europe, for the most part, are players that weren't likely to play in the NHL this year anyways. Maxim Lapierre made news today in that he is officially retired. And if you don't realize that Maxim Lapierre was still a player, I can understand that, because I had forgotten he was still active overseas. But he's officially retired. His NHL numbers: 614 games played, 65 goals, 74 assists, 139 points, 586 penalty minutes. A pest. Was not one of my absolute favorite players when he played. Even when he was in Vancouver, there were times where I was like, holy crap, we got Kessler, we have Bieksa, we have Burrows, and we have Lapierre. I understand why people can't stand the Canucks. I get it. And I got it at the time. I was like, wow, how do you get them all onto one team like this? And Torres was there. It was like, holy, how do you have them all? Whew, just the chirping from the Canucks bench back then was, man. Anyways, so Lapierre is officially retired, and kudos to him on having a nice long career, making a good income, playing a game he loved, and 614 games is nothing to sneeze at in the NHL either. So, good for him. Now, speaking of players that have finished their career, now we're getting to one that hasn't started yet officially in the NHL, and that's Cole Caulfield. I've started to see a lot of articles about Caulfield, and I really think he's worthy of all the hype. So, don't be surprised if over the next 10 months until he makes his debut in the NHL, if there's a lot more hype and a lot more talk about goals and a lot of highlight reel stuff and a lot of, wow, this kid's going to be really good, because he's going to be really good. Caulfield, I think, is going to solve a lot of the scoring issues that Montreal's had at times over the last few years. He's going to be the kind of scoring winger that the team can really rely on night in and night out, and it's going to end up being a steal out of that draft. So, I understand the hype, and it's there for a reason. I also wanted to mention, because I get asked a lot right now, a lot of social media is asking me jersey questions, which is normal. More than half the questions I get are always about jerseys. The retro reverses are selling out. I have not seen a site yet that says, hey, we're going to get more. No panic. I've seen a lot of, we have this one shipment and that's it, and then it's gone. So they are selling out. The Capitals is becoming hard to find. Coyotes is getting hard to find. There are some that are still surprisingly readily available. Anaheim, the Wild Wing, is still almost every size, I think, is still available on Cool Hockey. At least it was the last time I looked. Buffaloes with the crossed swords, almost every size available for that. So some of them, either Cool Hockey got a ton. They basically said, send us whatever you can. Or there just hasn't been as much demand, but some of them are selling out. So be careful, because once they're gone, that's likely it. I think what all of this excitement about the jerseys, all these people that have messaged me like, hey, this jersey, that jersey. You know what it tells me? A lot of us right now, we don't have our hockey. We need hockey. And I think these jerseys are selling at a much faster clip than they would have if we'd had hockey. So this to me says a lot about hockey-starved markets, and the NHL should be paying attention to this, and I think they will be, saying, look how much money we're generating right now. We need to come back and play. And they can bring that information to the players and say, look, merchandise sales are through the roof. We go 50-50. I'm pretty sure the merchandise sales are 50-50 as well, so let's get it done. All right. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always regarding any of these items. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're just browsing your way through, you happen upon this video. And I also want to close out by saying Yvonne is fine today. We did the Zoom call today for about 2 hours. Yvonne was there the whole time, and she's all right. So thank you guys so much for your concern. It did also help to root out some dingleberries that they're dingleberries. So I just, you know, some of the comments I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So that's always nice when something happens and you root out, so people go, hey, that guy did turn out to be a dingus. I wonder about that. So anyways, you're always going to have that online. That's how that works. But thank you again. You know, like I said last night, 98% of the experiences we have online are incredibly positive. And I agree with people too that say that there's sort of a family feel to the channel. That was always the goal when it started out, was the feeling of a community, that kind of thing. And if people want to use the word family, that works too. Thanks for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.